Who has gained weight and lost weight and gained weight and lost weight before? Me too. So you're not alone, I promise you. About 50 to 60% of people that do challenges like this, whether it's with us or with another gym or if they do it by themselves, 50 to 60% of those people that do these challenges will end up gaining the weight back because they stop doing the things that they've been doing. That's the key to consistent results, is doing the things that were working and continuing to consistently do those things. So our goal today is to talk to you and educate you on how to not be part of that 50 to 60%. We want you to be part of that 40 to 50% that continues to succeed. So that's why we're here today. So we have two different games that people play. People that do these challenges and then they just jump in and out of challenges and they don't stay consistent with anything. They're playing that finite game. They have this, I'll be happy when I lose 20 pounds. Like, well, no, you have to be happy now and continue to do the things that work. So they're focused on a specific result on the finite side. In the infinite game, we're focusing on transforming from the inside out so we can take the fat off and keep it off. Okay, then on the other side we go, it's a short-term program with end dates, and then on the other side there's no end date. This is something that we do for the rest of our lives. This is a lifestyle. This isn't just a 6-week flash in the pan. On the finite side we have strict rules, then we have, on the infinite side, we have structured for nutritional flexibility. It doesn't have to be this rigid line of I can and I can't. We can have that flexibility. Then we have restrictions and binging versus creating a plan that doesn't require cheating. I hate that term, cheat meal. I can't stand it because when we build into our plan we get to eat the things that we like, then if it's built in, it's not cheating. You're not being dishonest. You're building them into your plan and you get to enjoy the foods that you still enjoy without the guilt that goes with it. Low calorie diets versus eating as much as possible. Yo-yo diets versus a lifestyle. Off-limit foods versus no off-limit foods. Eliminating food groups versus balanced nutrition. Weight loss focus versus fat loss focus. No accountability or support versus professional accountability and support. Focused on the after photo, focused on forming habits, routines, and rituals needed to achieve that after photo long term. And then no post weight loss plan or fat loss plan, and then having a post fat loss plan, which is a big part of what we're talking about today. So who are you? So we're going to go over 3 different scenarios here of the types of challengers that we have after the fact. Dawn, you've been exposed to this already, and you've become challenger number 3, which we'll see here in a little bit. But you're going to see the different types of challengers that we have and that we've seen, and it's important to kind of just play this in your head of, okay, I see a little bit of myself in there, or that's me. I'm 100% that's me. So just kind of be aware of that as we go. So challenger number 1. This is the thank God this is over. That was miserable. So
those are the people that didn't make it all the way.
Exactly.
Probably yes.
So this is the mindset is, well, it's time to reward myself for being so good for 6 weeks. I'm gonna take some time off. I'm gonna binge drink and binge eat crappy foods. I'm sick of the prepping and the planning and vegetables and nutritionally dense food. Screw that. There's no way I can live like this forever. So it's that person that hasn't shifted their mindset yet. And what happens in this situation, unfortunately, is pre-diet, you come into this program, you come into the 6 weeks, and this is where your body is at. You have, we have essentially a set number of fat cells. Now, this is one of those life isn't fair moments where we actually don't get rid of fat cells, we decrease in size. So post-diet, you can see the fat cells have gotten smaller, which is the goal, right? The fat cells have gotten smaller, but Challenger 1 that says, you know what, I've put in enough work over the course of the 6 weeks, I should be good to go for a while. Well, this is what happens. We have that early relapse, and if we notice, again, a life isn't fair moment. Not only do we not actually lose fat cells, we just decrease them in size, but if we go back to our old ways and we gain weight back or we eat nutritionally bad foods, then we actually gain fat cells. So not only can we not get rid of fat cells, we decrease them in size, but we can actually gain them if we go back to our old ways right after the challenge. So that, it's not all doom and gloom, but it's not great.
Happens a lot with yo-yo diets.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happens here. So when you relapse or you relapses and you've taken one step backwards, then those fat cells start to grow again. And any of you guys ever watched The Biggest Loser?
Yes.
Yep.
I used to love watching it because I thought it was a very inspirational show, and it was great to watch people kind of have that moment of success. But the sad part about it is they're not set up for long-term success.
Yeah.
You're losing 18, 19 pounds a week, but they're doing this over the course of 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, and it's not enough time to change your mindset. If you think, right now I'm 38 years old, if it took me, I grew up, say, 34 years with the same mindset, and then I've worked on myself for the last 4 years and with a different mindset, I'm not gonna overcome 36 years of thinking in 4 years. It's gonna take longer, it's a process. And that's what happens with this type of challenger. The mindset hasn't shifted, and that's what happened with The Biggest Loser, folks. The mindset did not shift. Because 75% of those guys on The Biggest Loser gained the weight back plus 10 pounds within a year. Which is sad, but in the same breath, it was all put on for a show. It's TV.
Yeah.
They're not overly concerned about the long term for these people. Like, let's get immediate results, which tends to feed into what we do in society. We're immediate gratification people at the moment, unfortunately.
It was about the prize.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Prize.
The free
and then
Subway
they were done.
sandwiches and the prizes.
Yeah.
So as you can see, once we get to that point where we've reverted to our old ways, we end up gaining more weight back in the long run. So then we have challenger number 2, the chronic dieter. So I lost 10 pounds in 10 weeks, so if I keep doing the same thing, naturally, logically, if I do it for 6 more weeks, I'll be down 20 pounds by fall. Follows natural logic, right? Unfortunately, that's not how it works. Because this person, what typically happens in this situation is this person will, scientifically, what happens is as we go into a calorie deficit, which is necessary for fat loss, there's certain hormones, or T3, T4, leptin, those hormones will drop as we lose body fat. But it will get to a point where if we stay in a calorie deficit, they will bottom out, and that's where we hit that plateau. And that's where people get stuck. They're like, well, I've hit a plateau, I don't know what to do, where do I go from here? Most people, what they think is, I know, I'll either move more, or I'll just cut my calories more. or maybe I'll just do both. And that seems to be a mentality that I've heard over the years is, well, all you have to do for fat loss is just move more and eat less. Not the case. It really is not the case. Initially, yes, but our body adapts. There's a thing that's called metabolic adaptation. Our body figures out what's going on really quickly. Like if you were to hop on a treadmill and you set it at 6 miles per hour, within the first 7 to 10 minutes, your body will figure out what's going on, and it will literally change systems. So it will go from a fat burning system to your glycolytic system. So it will go from using fat as your energy source to sugar. And that sugar will then, once you run out of sugar, it will start to pull sugar from your muscles, and then we end up losing muscle mass. So the body really adapts really quickly and figures out what's going on. So if we stay in this calorie deficit for a long period of time, we will stay at that. Most of the time we'll either stay where we are or we'll start to gain back the other way, because the body goes into this kind of mode of, okay, I'm not getting enough energy, I need to store energy. So that's something to be aware of. And we'll talk about how to overcome this here in a second. Some of the metabolic consequences of dieting is the severity of the energy deficit, how long the deficit is imposed, and how frequently the deficits are imposed. So the severity is how much under we go.
Calorie count.
So nobody here should have been under 1,100 calories. Anything less than that, and your body you'll burn more muscle than you will actual body fat. How long the deficit is imposed, it's different for everybody. Some people can go 6 weeks being in a deficit and continue to lose weight and continue. Some people can go 12, some people can go 6 months. But it depends on how much you have to lose, your metabolism, how much rest you're getting, how much water you're taking on, the quality of your nutrition. There's a bunch of different variables in there, but it's on an individual basis, and that's where paying attention to what's working and what's not working is important. And then how frequently the deficits are imposed. You're probably thinking, well, if I stay in a deficit, then I'm always in a deficit, so why is it talking about frequency? Well, the frequency, that's what we're going to touch on here in a few minutes. We don't always want to be in a deficit. And now, Julie?
Yes, can you send this to me?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Good luck with the baseball game.
Thank you.
Bye. See ya.
So like we talked about, Challenger 2 was like, what's wrong with me? I'm eating less, I'm working so hard, and I'm still not losing weight. This is not working. What do? They quit. And they just go back to their old ways. They go back to what they were doing before, because the results aren't there. They're not seeing the results as it relates to that silly number between our feet. Like that is just one metric. It's only one way of looking at what we're accomplishing. And then we go on to Challenger number 3. Plays the infinite game. So continues to work out, continues the healthy habits, including the nutrition habits, follows the long-term plan, and creates a new identity. So this person recognizes that this is a lifestyle that needs to be developed. The healthy habits of planning, prepping, and then coming in and working out, obviously, and then having that long-term vision, and not just, hey, I'll do this for 6 weeks, and if it doesn't work, then I'll stop. Unfortunately, that's the mentality a lot of the time. And then the last one here for me is the most important one, to create a new identity. When we create a new identity, when we change our mindset, then we will act in accordance with our new identity. And we'll talk a bit more about that here in a minute. So which one are you? So you may have seen a little bit of yourself in each one of those, or it may have been just the one that you were thinking of the whole time. But I'm sure you have that thought in your head right now. All right, so how do we maintain our results? Two-step process. One, exercise, and the benefits. If you guys ever do any research on the benefits of exercise outside of fat loss, there's long term, the list is endless. It's unbelievable. And then we have the nutritional periodization. The nutritional periodization sounds fancy, but we'll explain it here in a second. And the exercise side of things. So when we stop working out, we lose the benefits of working out. So over the course of and it doesn't have to be just the 6 weeks, but throw out some things that you see as benefits or that you've noticed as benefits to you of working out. Just say whatever, any positive benefits you've noticed. Other than
I
fat
work
loss.
out in the morning and it's just gets me going for the whole day.
So focused, more mentally focused,
More awake and alert.
more alert, more energy. What else?
Feeling more confident.
Confidence, nice. We'll talk a bit about that here in a second. What else? Anybody's clothes fitting better?
Definitely.
Anybody sleeping better? Anybody less irritable? Relationships changed at all? Find yourself a little happier? And those are based off hormones. When we give ourselves that exercise, our hormones change to where we're just naturally happier. So there's so many different benefits that have nothing to do with the scale that are really important for us to continue working out.
My husband has definitely told me I've been in a better mood lately. So.
Yeah.
He seriously has, so.
Oh, that's nice.
That is beautiful.
I said, what was wrong with me before?
That's a typical mindset,
So
right?
what
You didn't answer that one, right?
No.
Good. Smart man, smart man. So number 2 there, then we working out 3 times a week, 30 minutes per session, and it has to be intense. And for those of you guys that have had the chance to sit down and do a strategy session, this is extremely important with regard to fat loss. Again, scientifically speaking, we're not only building muscle, but we're developing our cardiovascular system, which again, it's that metabolic adaptation. Our body then finds ways, or we become metabolically flexible to where our body finds ways to use what we have the most of. And body fat is one of those things that we have more body fat than we do muscle mass a lot of the time. So the body will find body fat in order to use that as energy. And then the combination of strength, obviously, and cardio builds and maintains that lean muscle mass. Exercise increases your sensitivity to satiety, hormones, and increases turnover in fat cells. You're more in tune with your body, so you know when you're full more often. You know when you're actually hungry versus looking at a clock. Oh, it's noon, I should be hungry. And if you're not hungry, you're not hungry. You don't have to eat at specific times just based off what a clock says. And yeah, then that lowers your set point, your body defense or your immune system becomes stronger. And then number 6 here, participants who ate more and exercised more regained significantly less weight compared to those who ate more and didn't exercise, even though their calorie surplus was the same. So obviously, people that exercise are able to keep the weight off that they've gotten rid of. Okay, 80-20. You guys might have heard this phrase before. 80% of our results come from our nutrition and 20% come from exercise. Anybody heard that before?
Yes.
No? So there's different trains of thought on this one. Some people say it's 60-40, 70-30, but I would agree with the 80-20. But for me, and this might be the same for you, and I know it is for a lot of the people we've trained over the years, the 20% drives the 80%. So while the 80% is extremely important and it's a huge part of the equation, the 20% drives the 80%. So for me, if I don't exercise, I'm not mentally in a strong place, I'm not emotionally in a strong place, which leads to a lack of discipline, which leads to irritability, which leads to those feelings of laziness. So I don't want to eat as well as I could. Not as well as I should, but as well as I could. Big difference in those two words.
Right.
But that 20% is huge. When I exercise, when I'm focused on what I need to do physically, I'm mentally where I need to be, I'm emotionally where I need to be, I'm spiritually where I need to be, and that makes my nutrition then where it needs to be.
Makes total sense.
And vice versa, if I'm not eating cleanly, I can tell it in my workouts.
Oh, absolutely, your performance is affected then, so
Yeah.
it gets into this vicious cycle.
Exactly.
So then we'll move on to the nutritional periodization. So just as life has seasons, so does our nutrition, or our nutrition should have seasons. So nutritional periodization, what is it? Well, it's a strategic way to change how many calories you eat at different times throughout the year to optimize your body's ability to lose or get rid of body fat over a long period of time. Losing body fat doesn't work for me. Because when we lose something, we tend to want to find it. So we're getting rid of body fat to where we do not want to ever see it again.
Right.
Again, it's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
So we get into the fat loss phase. So a big part of these things here, a big part of what we're talking about today is to make sure that we can still do these things and build it into our life without having to play that finite game that we talked about earlier and having to restrict yourself and be that person that is sitting there eating kale by themselves while everybody else is eating cake. It's okay to have cake.
Oh, gosh.
So the fat loss phase. That's the challenge. All right, this 6 weeks. That's the calorie restriction. We're hyper focused. We're getting the sessions in. We're getting the water in. We're making sure our sleep is on point. And we're in that calorie deficit. It's a shorter period of time, and the goal is to maximize our fat loss, or at least to prime ourselves for fat loss. Because I know some people that would have done the challenge, they may not have seen the scale move much, but they've seen inches lost, clothes are fitting better, body fat percentage is down, muscle mass is up, but the scale hasn't moved. And people will still be pissed off that the scale hasn't moved. So if it's not maximizing our fat loss, at least it's prepping our body for fat loss. So then we get into kind of the mindset side of it. It's easy to be all in because you're seeing results, because you're seeing that your clothes are fitting better and you're feeling more energetic, and it's that honeymoon period. It's sustainable because it's short term, and then we're safely losing or getting rid of fat. So now let's look at another season. So the spring, well, I guess this is going to be the summer. So the transition phase, this follows the fat loss phase. Now it can be different for everybody. It could be 6 weeks, it could be 8 weeks, it could be 10, 12. It just depends on what your body is doing. So it follows the fat loss phase. There's a slight calorie deficit. It's a slow, gradual increase in calories. We're maintaining our results, and we're increasing our metabolism, and we're eating more food and still getting rid of body fat. So this part here, the maintain results part, people, and I know even for me, just looking at that going, doesn't sound really exciting, like maintaining results. But you're at minimum holding on to where you've gotten to. But again, the things outside of the scale, you're getting stronger, you're developing your cardiovascular system, your energy levels, your sleep, your relationships, your mood, all these different things they are still results. So you're still increasing and bettering your result. But with regard to the scale, it may look like it's maintenance. The eat more food part, you gotta love that.
Yeah.
Gotta love that. So then into the next season, so this might be winter for some people. So this is the maintenance phase and it feels boring. You get to enjoy your favorite foods without gaining weight or feeling guilty, and it primes your body for additional fat loss. So this maintenance phase, so my mother-in-law, she did the New Year, New You, and then she did that transition of maintenance phase, and then jumped in on this challenge. And she comes over to the house to hang out with the kids every Thursday, and of course I hear everything that's going on with regard to her nutrition and with her workouts and all that good stuff. But she started off, I think she was about 185-ish, don't tell her I said this, but she started off about 185-ish, and she saw great results over the course of the 6 weeks. And then we went into the transition of maintenance phase, and she's like, I'm eating more calories, but I'm not seeing any fat loss. Like, well, one, you haven't done an in-body, so you're only seeing the number on the scale. But second, trust the process. I promise you, if you just do what we're asking you to do, you will see the result. So she got back got started on the challenge, and 3 weeks in, she got under 170 pounds for the first time in over 30 years.
Wow.
And it was just one of those, like, if you just trust the process. We're not telling you this just for the sake of telling you this. This is to educate you, and unfortunately, like I mentioned with the mindset side of things, when we've been told things in the media and in school for so long about how fat loss works, that's what we believe. Like, we still believe that low fat milk is better for us than full fat milk. All they're doing is replacing the fat with sugar. It doesn't make it better. All it's doing is changing the taste and adding more sugar. So again, that's where we're educated. Okay, so in the transition phase, so you're continuing to drink half your body weight in ounces of water on a daily basis. Who gets in half their body weight in ounces of water?
Easily.
Do we have any people that struggle with it? Is it tough? What's the biggest struggle, would you say?
Still like water?
Yeah,
Water, I just get too busy. Forget.
gotcha.
If you don't start early in the day, you'd be in real trouble.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, and drink, but it's just like,
Yeah.
I'm an office worker, so it's easy just to continuously fill up my cup of water, you know,
Yeah.
that's all I drink is water.
I work in the office Monday to Friday too, but I also work in the public, so
Mhm.
do both.
Gotcha.
Yeah, when you're out
It's
and
like
about,
back
that
and
makes
forth,
it
like,
harder.
yeah, I mean, so it's Monday to Friday, it's an office job, but we also work in the public too,
Yeah.
so it's
Like it's easier in the summer too versus in the winter.
And I find myself struggling more on weekends just because I am so busy and I don't have that cup of water right there where I can
Yeah.
just take a drink
It's
and,
just not as structured of a day.
yeah.
So one of the things that I personally do is try to get at least 20 ounces in before I even walk out the door.
Uh-huh.
Because it kind of just primes the mindset. It's gonna be part of that. For me, it's part of what drives everything else is how I start my day. If I start my day with negative thoughts, it's hard to turn that around. If I start my day without water, it's hard to turn that around. So if I ensure that I'm conscious about my thoughts and I'm conscious about my water intake, the rest of the day tends to follow. So if you can think about that, I'm gonna get in, and it might not be you getting 20 ounces in, 24 ounces before you walk out the door, but it could be, okay, I'm at least gonna have 2 mouthfuls. But something to get the ball rolling.
I will say the water bottle, like the type of water bottle is key for sure.
Yes,
I used to use like that big one and it was so intimidating.
Yes,
And so like these are way better, just like refilling them.
Yep.
And so like if I can just get one in before I even get to work, then I have better days, like I know that that's gonna be a good day. Just
and
getting that in.
that's another mindset thing, like we see these, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things that, like you can translate that same mindset to fat loss and our long-term goal. You see the big number or whatever that number is that you're looking at, you're like, 20 pounds still?
Well, it was
Yeah.
for real, like the gallon water bottle, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna do it, and then I get halfway done, I'm like, still?
Yeah.
Still,
Exactly.
I feel so full.
And then on the other side, some people have the mentality with those water bottles, what are they, 16 ounces?
Yeah, it seems like.
Some people like,
I just
I'm
feel
gonna
like
drink
you can
8 of
drink
these
it.
things?
Yeah.
This
I
is
just feel
ridiculous.
like you can drink it so fast.
So finding like something that's in between,
Right.
normally 24 to 32 ounces, and then you're like, oh, I only have to drink 4 or 5 of these? Piece of cake. So it's just finding what works for your mindset or switching your mindset.
Mhm.
And
Um,
I'm working from home, so I keep glass by the kitchen sink and a glass in the bathroom, and then I have a cup that I have at my desk, so
Nice.
if I go down to the kitchen to do something, I take a big drink
There
of
you
water.
go, have them spread
I
out.
just have it available
like
everywhere,
it.
Right, that's a good idea.
and then keep
Kicking
filling
all
up my
the
one on my
glasses of
desk.
water. Whoop, there's another one. So with this, with water, it's highly, highly, highly underestimated how water can help with your fat loss and just with general health, because we've all heard it, 70% of our body's made up of water, and if we're dehydrated, things don't function as well as they need to. You may or may not have heard this before, but our thoughts are based off, a lot of our thoughts are based off our hormones and where our hormones are. And if we're not getting enough water and we're dehydrated, our hormones are gonna be off balance. So if our hormones aren't in balance, then our thoughts are not as accurate as they typically would be, then we make bad decisions. So get that water in. Same with sleep. If you're not getting it, if you have to set an alarm and your alarm is the thing that has to wake you up, then you're not getting enough sleep. And if you're not getting enough sleep, then your body is waking up, boom, cortisol. That cortisol then triggers sugar release from the liver, and then insulin is then released from the pancreas, and then we're priming ourselves for fat storage. So sleep is essential, it's huge. And that's one of those, between those two, it's a situation where our body is in fight or flight if we're not doing both of those. And it just doesn't give us a good opportunity to get to where we wanna be. So hyper focus on those as best you can. Then tracking the food, prepping your food, and planning your food, working out 3 to 5 times each week, 3 to 7 if you want, even more, alright, and then tracking your progress. And again, tracking the progress doesn't mean that it's just numbers. Paying attention to your mood, asking your significant other about your moods. But make sure there's enough distance between you and your significant other to where you don't wanna swing on them, it gives you the wrong answer.
Back away.
So in this transition phase, these are just example numbers, these aren't your numbers. So say, for example, throughout the challenge you were at 1,600 calories. What we're suggesting is, and I'll give you 2 different options here because this isn't gospel. You wanna increase your calories for a couple of weeks by 100 calories. So every day, you wanna increase by 100 calories. Then the next couple of weeks, you'll increase it again. Next couple of weeks, increase it again. And by the end of 10 weeks, you will have increased your calories by about 500 calories. Now, I know that might seem 1, counterintuitive, and 2, next to impossible. But I'm gonna give you another option here in a second. The idea is what we talked about earlier, T3, T4, and leptin. As we are in that calorie deficit long term, those hormones drop until they bottom out. As we increase our calories, it brings those hormones back up and allows us to continue that process of fat loss again. It's actually essential to it. if we do not increase our calories, we will not prime ourselves for more fat loss. Does that all make sense? So that's one way to do it. This might seem a little overwhelming. Like, next time, where am I gonna put that? Where am I gonna get it from? Do I get that from cake?
It was a
Take an extra
struggle.
slice a day.
It was a struggle after the first challenge I did,
Yeah.
to add 100 calories every single day. So I'd gotten so used to where I was at, but
Yep.
it worked.
It's tough, but
Yeah.
there are simple ways to go about it. And it doesn't have to be a Pinterest recipe that is this long. It could literally be something as simple as I'm gonna add, like if I'm gonna add guacamole to my wrap. And that's 100 calories. Like if you were to add in 3 tablespoons, boom, 100 calories.
Handful of almonds.
Easy peasy, a
Yeah.
handful of almonds, easy
100
peasy.
calories. Yep.
So it's while it sounds tough now, it's just a matter of, okay, what does that 100 calories look like? And thinking about it beforehand and not just guessing it. So by the end of, like I said, by the end of 10 weeks, you'll be 500 calories up, and then we can start this process all over again. So then you will go back into a calorie deficit, and then we start the same process. So again, we're priming our body for fat loss. The other way to go about it, and this is how I personally do it, is I pick 2 non-consecutive days a week, and I intentionally overeat. So I call them refeed days. They're not cheat days, because cheating again insinuates that I'm being dishonest. I am not. It's built into my week. So I try to go over by 200, anywhere between 200 and 300 calories. And again, it's not cake. If I choose to eat some cake, then yeah, cool, no big deal. I'm just gonna make sure I don't do that 2 days in a row. But typically Fridays, we didn't do it yesterday, but typically Fridays, we'll do pizza. And what I'll do is, I'm a big fan of pizza, but what I'll do is, again, plan, and I'll have a shake beforehand, or I'll actually do a smoothie beforehand. So I'll do 2 cups of spinach, I'll do a cup of almond milk, half a cup of almond butter, then I'll put some berries in there, and then protein powder, blend that up. That's about 500-600 calories right there. I will drink that, or eat it, whatever way you wanna look at it, and then I can have my pizza. But what I've done is fill myself up essentially, and now I know I won't eat as much pizza, but I still get to enjoy the pizza. So it's just that mindset of, yes, I love pizza, but it doesn't mean I have to eat the whole thing.
Right.
So a little bit of discipline in there too. Any questions on that before we move on? So you have those 2 options. Somebody came up to me after Thursday and they were like, how much? I can barely hit my calories now. I was like, it's fine, just use the other one that I offered. Do the 2 days a week and just intentionally bump up your calories. Try to make it the best quality food that you can. But on those 2 days, non-consecutive days, you're gonna have that piece of cake. Apparently I like cake as well.
I know, you certainly do.
If I could just get cake
I
on my
love cake
pizza,
too.
Just cause you had a birthday recently.
that might be it.
Oh, did
That might
you?
be it.
Oh, happy belated.
Probably.
Well, today's my birthday as well.
Oh, today, oh, it is as well? Okay.
Every day is my birthday.
You're just reborn every day.
I am.
He's like 3,200 years old.
Every day is my birthday.
Got a question.
Yes.
Like, you're supposed to do this after the challenge, like, get to the 500 calorie
Mhm.
plus for like 10 weeks, and then you're supposed to change to a deficit again.
Yep.
It's gonna be like periods of 10 weeks.
Yeah, so that's kind of a guideline, and it's gonna be different for every person. So if it's a situation where you see, like you do an in-body scan 6 weeks from now, like, okay, my body fat percentage is up, my muscle mass is down, and my weight is up, then like, okay, let's get you back into a deficit again.
So at that point you can stay maintaining yourself. You don't have to go into a deficit. It will be depending on the results, I guess.
Exactly, yep. So that's why those strategy sessions are really important, to make sure that you guys get in with us every now and then, so we can monitor that, and it's not just let's just see what happens. Cause the let's see what happens doesn't tend to work out most of the time. Any other questions on that one?
Yeah, the in bodies are what's gonna be important, not just stepping on your scale.
Yes.
How often do you do those things?
We recommend every 6 to 8 weeks. 4 weeks if you're really pushing it, but normally 6 to 8 weeks. And even by adding in 100 calories, you're still gonna be in a calorie deficit. So we're gradually getting you above. Now, with the second suggestion that I made, I invite you to be extremely careful and diligent and disciplined on that one, because it's so easy to eat that cake and still have some in the fridge, and the next day you're like, oh, still cake there.
You should just finish that.
Nobody's watching.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So that second suggestion that you made, I'm assuming for some people, you're still, like throughout the week, you're still in a deficit,
Yeah.
even with the 200
Correct.
added in on those days. And you said you're gradually getting you above, cause like I think we had a discussion, like 1400 or 1500 is just what you need to maintain to like get up.
Yep.
Every day. So even adding those 200 in, you're not getting there. So if the point is to get you there, you're never gonna get there. So
You will. So as you bump those calories, what happens is it increases those 3 hormones I talked about, the T3,
Right, but
T4.
if you add, maybe I'm misunderstanding that. If you just pick 2 days, non-consecutive days where you're just adding 200, like for example, mine throughout the challenge was 1100. So if I'm just picking 2 non-consecutive days and I do them only at 13. So am I doing that for 10 weeks or am I adding
That can be a
200?
long-term thing.
Right, but then I'm saying like, then I'm not getting to that 1400, 1500 ever. Is that correct?
Per day, yes.
So it doesn't misunderstand.
But over the course of a week, you can still hit those numbers because you're bumping anywhere from 400 to 600 calories over your normal over the course of a
If I
week.
pick the second option?
Yeah. So you're boosting those hormones. So if we're gradually adding that 100 calories to where we get 500 calories over what we were set up to begin with, we're still only hitting over by 100 to 150 calories.
I'll clarify with you later, cause I don't
Okay.
think I'm understanding what you're saying.
Okay.
You gave 2 options.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's either gradually add 100 calories per week for
Right.
10 weeks,
Right.
or per 2 weeks for 10 weeks, or it's adding 200 to 300 calories 2 times a week
Gotcha. Okay.
for as long as you want to, or as long as it's working. Alright, so the 5 most important components of long-term fat loss. So a recent study looked at what it takes to lose or get rid of fat and keep it off. Researchers unearthed 5 key findings. Who would like to know what the 5 things are? Nobody? Alright, so planning. Why do you guys think planning is important?
If you don't plan that, you're gonna eat whatever is in front of you, right? It could be a bad decision, I guess.
Yeah. It's like if you're going on a road trip somewhere, like, you know what, I'm gonna go to Chicago, I'll head south. Yeah, it's not gonna work out for you. You're not gonna make it to Chicago.
Nope.
So you have to have a plan, you have to have an idea, a guide, you have to have a track that you need to follow. Then prepping your food. This one seems to be a troublesome one for a lot of people. Prepping your food does not have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be Pinterest worthy recipes. It can be really simple. Paige, what did you eat yesterday? What did you bring to the gym to eat yesterday?
We chicken and green beans would be really nice.
There you
Know
go.
what I ate?
Yeah.
No, maybe I had rice. I think I had rice.
It was
Chicken and
rice, yeah.
I had chicken and rice.
So it's like, it's not rocket surgery. fairly straightforward, I know, I mixed the both up.
He did that on purpose.
See if they're paying attention.
But for me, having an idea obviously of what you wanna do, very important. But it doesn't have to be really difficult and complicated. I literally at the beginning of the week, I'll do pot of rice, beans, I'll mix those together, boom, in the fridge. Tupperware of peppers, cut up into little fingers, in the fridge. Cucumbers, boom, in the fridge. And then for my go-to, if it's like, alright, I'm hungry, it's not, I'm grabbing at whatever's there. Like, it's already ready, all I gotta do is heat it up now. So I'll take 2 eggs, boom, boom, crack them in the frying pan, then the rice goes in, the peppers go in, the cucumbers go in. Mix it up, it's warm, boom, great meal.
Sounds good.
It's really easy. It is, and then a little hot sauce on there, and
Yeah,
we're all set.
sounds good.
I roast a whole sheet of vegetables every Sunday, and I
Yeah.
just eat on it all week with other stuff added. I can change the variety, you know, sometimes I make it more of a salsa, or sometimes I mix more of a marinara, make it more Italian themed, but
Okay.
It doesn't have to be overly complicated.
Nope.
Keep it simple. KISS, right?
Yeah.
And then working out a minimum of 3 times a week. Personally, more than 3 times a week is gonna be more beneficial,
Yeah.
but minimum of 3. Then we have changing your identity. So this one is huge. This is one of those where if you don't change your mindset, then we don't maintain or we don't stay in the direction that we were headed. It's pretty straightforward. Results don't last, but who you are does. So our life is only as good as our thoughts. And we only act, or for the most part, we only act in accordance to who we believe we are. So what we think on a regular basis, what we believe, what our rituals and processes over the course of a day are, they're based off our past. It's what we've grown up learning from our parents, learning from our siblings, learning from what we watch on TV, what books we read. That's all we're doing. It's just what we do now is a projection of what we've learned from the past. And if in the past those things have not worked for you, or if you haven't paid attention to it, and you were to sit down and look at those things and say, okay, are they serving me? Are they helping me be the person I want to be? If you say no, then you'll continue to be the person that you want to be. Or if you say yes, then you'll continue to be the person that you've always been. If you say no, you're giving yourself an opportunity to change. So your identity, like I said, it's your thoughts, your actions, and your beliefs that you hold on to. So who you believe you are is how you act. So let's take a look at Sahil here. So Sahil, you can see on the left, doesn't look very healthy, a little bit overweight. Sahil's from India. He's an FBC intern out in California. Came here to go to college and did not like who he was. He didn't like the person that he'd become, the habits that he'd kind of brought into his life. So he started to negotiate with himself. Instead of having these tyrannical conversations with himself of like, I'll just fight through, I'll just force myself to do these things. He started asking himself questions. He asked himself, okay, I wanna be healthy. So the question he asked himself, the filter that he ran all of his decisions through was, what would an athlete do in this situation? So now he's starting to talk to himself as if he's an athlete. He's starting to having a new conversation with himself where he's asking, okay, I'm going out to eat. What would an athlete do in this situation? I don't feel like going and working out. What would an athlete do in this situation? I think I'll sleep in today. What would an athlete do in this situation? So that was his filter. And it's a great way to go about it. And psychologically speaking, it actually sets us up for long-term success. And the reason being is that we actually start to see little wins. So you ask yourself that question, you see that little win, that boosts your self-esteem, that boosts your self-confidence. And our self-confidence, our self-esteem comes from competence. When we do things well and succeed at them, our self-confidence increases, our self-esteem increases. When our self-esteem increases, then we want to do it again. Because when we have those little wins, that reward center in the brain that releases dopamine, that's a win. So every time we have those wins, every time you make that decision of an athlete, you make that decision of a healthy person, the likelihood of you continuing to do that is 8 times greater than somebody that has that negative conversation, that tries to tyrannically overthrow their old mindset versus just having that kind of conversation. So Sahil ended up losing 100 pounds just by changing his mindset and asking himself questions instead of trying to force himself to do things. So to drive the point home a little bit, here's another way of looking at it. So you talk to a smoker. You want a cigarette? No, thanks, I'm trying to quit. Versus, no thanks, I don't smoke. So you see the difference there. And if you guys watched that Mindset Monday, I talked about this not too long ago, about the word trying. When we say we're gonna try, we've already subconsciously given ourselves an out. We've already subconsciously told ourselves, I probably won't succeed, so I'll just say I'll give it a shot, I'll try. But when you make a statement of identity, I don't smoke, you will act in accordance with that identity. That make sense?
Yeah.
So again, it's a massive, like, it's tiny nuances, but it's a massive mindset shift. So this is another further illustration. I want versus I am. I want to lose weight, I want to be healthy, I want to be happy, I want to succeed, versus I am this. I work out, it's what I do. I meal prep, I'm happy, I track my food. When we switch our identity, when we switch how we talk to ourselves, then we will act in accordance with that. Your brain goes to work to prove your beliefs are true. You guys ever bought a new car and then everywhere you go you see that car?
Yes.
Yes.
Or even if it's a car that you like and it's everywhere. No matter what color it is, no matter what version of that car it is, you see it everywhere. So that's part of our reticular activating system. It's what our body does to reorient our reality to fit our thoughts. So our mind will literally, if we're focused on something, we set a target, our body will reorient, or our mind will reorient our actions and our reality to fit that narrative. So again, look it up if you want. The reticular activating system, it's a huge part of how we function. So you cannot achieve your new life if you continue to hang on to your old story. And that's basically what life is. Life is just an amalgamation of all of our old stories. It's the stories that we tell ourselves. So who says I'm not a morning person? Anybody say that to themselves? Oh, I'm just not a morning person. Or I'm not big on vegetables. Or what's another one that people use all the time? You guys think of any?
I don't like water.
Yeah, just not a big water drinker. Just don't like how it tastes. There's,
Sorry.